Hey guys, welcome to A Story with Rory, and I'm your host for tonight's show. We have a very special guest with us tonight named BJ. He's from the USA, and he's got a pretty incredible story that he would like to share. How's it going, BJ?
Going well. How are you doing today, Roy?
Pretty good, pretty good. Tell you what, me and the viewers on the show tonight were really interested in hearing what the story is that you got.
All right. Well, I'm going to start off. I work for a tribal police department, and we do a lot of traveling around, have a lot of Indian land that we patrol. On this one particular night, the story that we're fixing to tell, um, we had a report of some poachers. So we knew they were over around the Yale area, so we decided to go over there and check it out. And one night, nobody could find the campsite, so one night I decided to go over there. Took a whole night and grabbed some things and decided to head down that way. This place is a little bit south of Yale. It's right along the riverside, uh, really out in the middle of nowhere. There's nobody around. It's just open fields. So this
Hmm.
particular area, I get there and knowing the place and the people that are around there, there's a lot of weapons. People just don't like to follow the rules down there very often. So I parked quite a ways away, probably about a mile away at the gate. This open field, oh, it's probably 2, 3 acres. It's completely open. It's like a wheat field, and it's got tree draws all the way around it and horseshoe. So it was a full moon this night, and I can't remember the exact day, but it was in July, later part of July. It was about 1 or 2 in the morning. And so I get out of my unit and I start walking the field. The sun or the moon is going to be on the east side. So I walk along the shadow of the draw because I don't know if anybody's down there.
Hmm.
And as I'm walking down that way, there's going to be a lot of little rodents, little animals in the field. I can see all those, nothing major. So I walk all the way around and I get to the west side of the draw and I see an opening, looks like a path. A lot of people have traveled it. So I walk down the path and I find our poachers area. Nothing special really going on, just a normal night, clear. Um, and I see the campsite. They have the little hooks where they hang the deer. Um, they got little campfires, little place for the tents, some tables. Got a pretty nice little setup, but there was nobody there.
Hmm.
So I marked the map on a GPS location so everybody else would know exactly where this tent was. And I decided to go ahead and take out and walk back to my unit. So I walked back out to the open field along the tree line there on the west side this time. The moon's pretty much directly over me. And so as I'm walking, I get probably 100 yards from the opening along the field, and I've got probably another 3/4 of a mile to go before I get to my ride. And as I'm walking, I hear some just a lot of rustling up in the trees, the tree branch. None of them are breaking, but just a lot of heavy movement, kind of like if you would be at a zoo and you'd see all the monkeys going through the trees.
Right.
That kind of sound, just really intense. And it's quite a ways off, closer to the river.
Hmm.
And there's probably 50 yards of trees between the riverbank and where I was at. So there's quite a bit of trees there. So as I'm walking, I'm not paying much. I figured it was the wind, it was far off, and I keep walking. And as I'm walking, I can hear it getting louder and louder, and it's coming at me kind of at a diagonal direction, not all around, just kind of like it's coming right to me.
Right.
And so I turn around and I grab my thermal and I look up in the trees, look through the forest. I don't see anything, and it's pretty heavily leaved up, so it's hard to see through there anyway. But I couldn't find any heat traces of any
Hmm.
kind. So I'm like, well, I depend on the thermal. I really like it. So I had some night vision as well, and I thought, well, I'll give that a shot too. So I looked through all through there. Had an infrared filter on a flashlight, so I lit up the trees. Couldn't see anything, no eyes, no reflectors, no anything. So I'm like, well, okay, just really heavy wind. So I take off walking again, and about when I get 10 feet, I hear the trees, just something clear the trees. I don't know. It was just something big, something loud. And I turn around, I look up, and there's this figure of an owl, and it's silhouetted in the moon. And it was huge, at least 6 foot from the tail tips, the feathers, all the way to the pointy ears, and the wingspan was just incredible.
Dang.
I wish I could describe it more than that, because as soon as I look up, I hear a loud hoot, and the wind from the wings pushed me down in the ground. Well, when I did, I landed on my gun, and I'm sitting there laying down on my side, and I'm looking up, and this thing's just hovering over me. I don't see any eyes. I don't see any outline of feathers or color. Just a complete black silhouette and real loud hoot. It was very loud.
Man.
I could probably put it almost to the sound of, not as quite loud as a train, but pretty loud like a train, pretty
Right.
close by. So I'm reaching for my gun, and finally I roll over and I grab it. And as soon as I draw it and point up, the thing just takes off south, and it takes off fast. Um, I didn't even see which direction it went. And when it took off, I jumped up and I did scream, and I just took off running. And
I
I'm not much
imagine.
of a runner, and I think I probably cleared 3/4 of a mile, fastest I've ever done in my life. So
Mm.
after that, I didn't go back for probably 2 weeks. I was asked why I haven't been down there, and I told the story, and was told, okay, no problem. Whenever I felt like going back, go ahead and go back. And it took probably about another 2 weeks before I went back. But I haven't had that incident happen again. But that was probably the most intense happening I've had since I've been out here.
Man. So no eyes whatsoever.
No, I couldn't see any eyes. I mean, I want to say it was probably a good 30, 40 feet from me. Like I said, it was intense. It was just solid black. The feathers on the wings were perfectly spaced apart, like you would normally see on a bird. So it was some
Hmm.
kind of bird. Now, I've been told many stories what it could have been. Could have been a shapeshifter. Somebody telling me, hey, don't come out here. I'm trying to warn you, and told me, pretty much to leave, and I did. Um, that's all I can gather from people. It was pretty intense. That's not the only thing I've seen, but as far as the major ones for your story, yeah, that was pretty incredible.
Do you believe that like maybe that land could be cursed or anything like that?
Cursed. I'm going to be honest. I don't know that much about the curses of the tribe. I know a few, but as far as the land being cursed, no, I haven't been told, and I'm quite certain that they would tell me anything of that nature. They're
Right.
pretty good to me. They're very good to me. They teach me everything I need to know, what they can, and so far I've talked to several elders, several other tribes too, and nobody can tell me exactly what that owl was. Now, I'm not the only one that's seen one pretty similar to that. Other people said they've seen it alongside the highway or just fly right across them, but nobody can tell me what it is or what it meant.
So it was like a skinny, tall stature.
Well, I wouldn't say it was skinny, and it wasn't fat. It was pretty athletic build, kind of. I mean, I don't know how you would describe an athletic built owl, but
Hmm.
it wasn't. It was just a typical well built owl. I mean, the body shape was perfect. I couldn't see any feet. Like I said, all I could see was the tail feathers going down, the wingspan, and of course the head and the ears.
Right.
If I had to take a guess, it was just a large barn owl. I had the shape, maybe a horned owl, but one of those two. But I couldn't tell you. I'd never seen one like that ever.
Man, that's crazy. Like, yeah, I would probably mess myself if I saw something like that in the middle of the night
Oh,
in a forest, you know?
it was totally unexpected. Like I said, something was coming at me through the woods, but I was not expecting that. That's all I can. Well, I mean, who would?
Right. And I
But
mean,
yeah, I was not expecting it at all.
the wind, just the force of that wind to knock you down,
It it
that's
was
truly extraordinary.
it was extraordinary. I can't describe. It just felt like something pushing me down. I know it was the wind because I could feel it come down, but
Hmm.
something pushed me down to the ground, and all I can think was it was the wind. My knees may have gave out on me. I might have been that scared. I'm not sure. I don't remember my knees because as soon as it left, I got up and I wasn't weak whatsoever in the legs. But yeah,
Right.
I do remember being pushed down to the ground. I think that's what scared me the most of the whole deal was that.
So after you got pushed down, you said you reached for your gun, and then it took off to the south. What happened after that?
Like I said, and what happened after that? As soon as it took off, I just reholstered, turned around, and ran the other direction.
Booked it.
Like I said, I know that's probably not very heroic, but I was not expecting a big ass owl to
Right.
come
I
out
don't know
and
anyone
scare
that
me.
would stick around for that.
I mean,
For
uh,
sure.
yeah, if I was more around, I would have asked questions, but I don't think it wanted to hang around either.
Right.
Um, but yeah, that's probably the most intense one.
Man.
And I know whenever I talked to you last time, I did have a dream about something similar to that. My mom and dad live here in town. They lived here their whole life. They got a big old 2-story house here in town. And I remember walking down the alley. I was probably 10, 11, somewhere in that age. And it was the same thing, except I could see the eyes on this owl, but it was on top of the house. And I'd be going down and I'd hear the loud hoot. And yeah, I would just take off and try to run, and I couldn't run. That owl would come down, and before it would get me, I'd wake up. And I knew that was a dream because that was a black and white. There was no color. There was nothing of that nature. But yeah, the story of I just told you, I went over it and over it probably for a long time before I told anybody the whole true story, thinking it was a dream. But I remember clocking in, going to the office, doing paperwork, got tired of paperwork, and
Hmm.
decided to go out there and check things out. So it wasn't a dream.
Yeah, it's one of those things you're like, oh, I didn't really see it, but like you told me before, I saw it. I know it happened, so I'm not gonna pretend like I didn't see it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Exactly that.
So there's a show on Discovery Plus called Expedition X, and there's a couple of one's a paranormal research expert, and the other one's um, I believe he's like a microbiologist or something like that. And anyways, they go out into the field and study different myths and legends and things of that nature. One of them though was the Mothman,
Yes.
and there was a kid, and this was like downtown Chicago, middle of the day. This kid just happened to be looking up. He was at a street light waiting for the walk sign thing to come on, and he
Yes.
was just looking up, and he had his GoPro on his chest or mounted, or he had it pointing towards the sky for some reason already, and he was just looking up, and his GoPro caught it. Something was flying. He's like, that looks like a giant bird, like a bird I've never seen before. And in the video, you see it just flapping its wings, and it looks just like this giant bird with something hanging from the ground. But they zoom in on the picture that he took. I guess they did like a freeze frame or something, and all you see are like these like feet and legs just dangling down, and these giant wings just spread out, kind of like what you're saying. So I'm wondering if there's a correlation between the two. Maybe, maybe not. But I'm just like, that's strange.
It,
Yeah.
it is very strange. I am familiar with the Mothman that you're describing, the Mothman prophecies. I think the one I did a lot of reading about and watched documentaries on was over in the Boston area. I think it's Boston. There's a bridge there. It's back in the 50s, I believe, 58, somewhere around there. The Mothman was seen around this town for about 6 months, somewhere around there, 6 months, 6 weeks, six something. And then not too long after it started showing its appearance and everything, that's when bad things started happening. The bridge, for one, collapsed, and over 50 people were killed in this incident. Other stories you're talking about, I'm not familiar with the Chicago one, but wherever the Mothman goes, tragedy seems to follow within months after it starts showing its face. The only
Mhm.
thing that I would say that it wasn't the Mothman was there was no tragedies in the area that I'm aware
Right.
of. Major tragedies over around the Cushing, Yale, or Payne County area. That's the only thing that tells me. And plus, it didn't have red eyes, and I didn't see any feet. Not saying it wasn't, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't though. But that's just me.
Yeah. So were you able to catch the podcast last night? The guy that I
No, I
put on?
haven't been able to look at it, but feel free to
That's
talk about it.
Yeah, that's a very interesting story. One of the reasons why I wanted to bring it up is because in his encounter, it kind of ties in with an owl, so to speak. So I guess this adult Bigfoot and this juvenile Bigfoot, um, he said they did like 15 owl hoots, and they weren't like your normal owl hoot, like hoo 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 hoo, it
Correct.
was just like a hoo, and it was just like one long hoot, and
Hmm.
they did them within 5 seconds of each other, like 15 times. And so he's thinking that they were doing it because they wanted to get a reaction if anyone was at the campsite, because they're intelligent,
Hmm.
intelligent creatures. And I guess they were trying to get some kind of sense of if was there anyone in the tent and the campsite because they wanted to definitely go over there and check everything out. And I guess the normal reaction is if you hear something like that, you're probably going to like get up and book it.
Hmm.
So I think that's probably what was going on there. But I've also heard from other resources, whether it was on a forum, Facebook, Google, something, that there's been correlation between Bigfoot and owl hoots. So I just think that's kind of interesting, just that correlation there. But I don't think it really has anything to do with like Mothman or you're a giant owl, really. But I'm just like, what's the correlation in mimicking an owl? Because I know there's a lot of birds out there. Like just why an owl, and that's just kind of a something that's always piqued my interest, I guess. So, but
Well, I don't know that many stories about owls, but I do know the Navajos. They see it as a messenger, good or bad, just a messenger. The Pawnees, they don't know. They don't like owls. They're death. That means death to them. They don't like owls. They stay away from them. So I'm not quite sure, like you, I'm not sure what the correlation is with that. Now, I haven't seen any Bigfoots or anything out there of that nature. The closest thing that I've seen similar to Bigfoot was what we call the monkey man, which lives down around the creek bottoms, well, around Crooked Bridge, south of town here. I've seen it down there, a few gatherings that the tribe does down there every once in a while. It does, but people say it doesn't come off the river bottom or the creek bottom for some reason. It just hangs out down there.
hmm,
Now, that is the closest thing I've seen, but that's far away from where I've seen any owls. I haven't seen anything down there other than the monkey man. That's it.
right. So now that I now that I have you on the show finally,
Sure.
I will ask you a question.
Okay.
Do you want to tell anything about the Deer Lady story, or do you not? Because if you don't, that's 100% cool. But if you do,
Um,
then you're more than welcome.
I'd be happy to tell you what I know. I haven't experienced the deer lady as far as visual goes, but I do have some stories with the deer lady that I've come in contact somewhat with her. But anyways, I'll go ahead and start off. Again, I got a call, and it's usually whenever I'm working is when all this stuff happens. I got a call. There's some place over by a cemetery. It's the Chowee Cemetery. We also call it the West Cemetery. Um, and there's some people that used to live there. They don't live there anymore. I'm not going to say their name, but they live there. And there was always she lived by herself, and there were always people coming up to her house. So she was calling us to come out and check on things. One night, got a call, go out and check on it, and I get out there, and of course, there's nobody there. She has a little place off where she keeps her teepee poles and everything over there. So I walk down there to check it. Now, as I'm walking down there, I get as soon as I get down to where she keeps all the poles and everything, it's just this incredible scent. I can't describe it anything but like roses, honeysuckle, just like the most romantic smell you could just ever imagine. And I mean, it was enticing, almost hypnotizing, if you will. And while I was standing there and I was looking around trying to figure out where the smell was coming from, it was coming from the wooded area. And as I was going to walk there, it got stronger and stronger. Um, there was another officer, Bobby Horn was his name. He was out that night too, and he was down at the cemetery when I took that call. He asked me what it was I was on. So I told him, I said, hey, I'm out here, maybe somebody just pilling around her house, but I'm just checking things out. And for some reason, I just told him, and it was exactly this, dude. There has got to be the sexiest smell I've ever smelled down here, and I have no idea where it come from or what it is. He's like, describe it to me. So I described it to me, and immediately he said, get in your truck and meet me down here at the cemetery. I said, no problem, man. Bob, he's a really good guy. He's always funny. He's always laughing. So when he's serious, it's time to
Mhm.
take him serious. And there was no joking. He was very serious, his tone of voice. So I was like, okay. So I get in my truck and I go down there and I talked to him. He said, you know what that is, don't you? I said, I have no idea. That's why I was looking for it. He said, don't do that. I'm like, okay, well then please tell me because I'm in the dark here. And he said, well, that was probably going to be the deer lady. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? So this is when he tells me the story of the deer lady. And basically, they don't know if she's a spirit, always been a spirit, or if she was a woman that was wronged by a man. But women don't have anything to fear with the deer lady, only men. She goes out, entices men into the forest, and you never come back. She'll say your name, she'll whisper it, the scent, anything to get you off into the forest. And then once you're in there, the only
Mm.
thing I've been told is she takes you and you never come back. What she does, I don't know. Um, the other incident, and I didn't know what this was, but I was just regular patrol again, and I was down south where the Crooked Bridge is, and I was coming back into town, and it was on let me get it straight, Ninth Street. And anyway, I was coming back, and as soon as the dirt road goes to the paved road, and this was probably August, oh, probably about 8 years ago. And as soon as it went from the gravel to the paved road, there's a big open field to the left there, which would be to the west. And I'm driving north. So I looked over there, and there's a light that I've never seen before. And it was dim. It was almost like a lantern, but it wasn't flickering. It was a steady, dim light. And I was traveling probably about 45, 50 mile an hour. And this light was moving with me, but it was way off in the field. I don't know how far, at least a good half a mile maybe. And it was just keeping up with me. And I was like, okay, this is a weird optical illusion. I'm not familiar with this light and it keeping up with me. So I speed up. I'm running about 55, 60 now, and it's getting closer. I mean, it's getting bigger and brighter, and it's getting closer, and it's still keeping up with me as I'm driving. So I speed up some more, and I have no idea what this is. And I speed up probably about 70, 75, and this road's rough, so I can't go too much faster. And this thing is
Right.
keeping up with me, and it's getting closer and closer.
It's weird.
So I just stop. And as soon as I stop, I look over and this light is gone. I don't know where it went, don't know what it done. It just disappeared on me.
Hmm.
And I don't think anything of it. So again, I talked to Bob and he tells me the story. He says, yeah, that was she's also known to carry a lantern from time to time. And it's a real dim white light. And I said, well, can she run fast? And he said, well, she's a spirit. So take your guess. I said, well, so I guess she can run pretty fast. So I don't know what it was, to be honest with you, but that's the only thing that makes sense is what Bob was telling me. So that was my experience with her.
Man, that's crazy. So did it look like a lantern or did it look like just like a flashlight?
No, it wasn't a LED or a halogen bulb. It was like, those compressed kerosene Coleman lanterns that you see.
From like back in
Just
the day.
yeah, yeah, back in the day kind of lantern. It wasn't
Oh
an
man,
open
that's
it wasn't an
creepy.
open flame. It was just a light. It was intense.
Ugh. Wow. Well, that's eerie. Just I mean, thinking about that, yeah, for sure. I wouldn't want to have an experiment or experience like that whatsoever. So,
Hmm. And
gonna get you the chills.
it does. I mean, during the fact, it's not so bad, but the smell, the one where I got the odor, that was probably the most chilling because, I mean, it was, especially after Bob told me, I'm getting chills now thinking about it. After Bob told me the story, man, I was like, boy, that was just a few minutes and maybe disappearing. Who knows?
Yeah, that's like
Um,
too close for comfort at that point.
very much, very much. It was intense because then these guys, they wouldn't tell me things just to scare me. They've always told me things to keep me safe and not to bother, the happenings that go on at the tribe.
Right.
There's a lot of other things too that I've seen. I don't know if you got time for that. I know we just talked about an owl, but most of the other things I've seen are kind of random, but they're
Yeah.
they're pretty
Yeah. Go
intense.
ahead. Yeah, we go. I mean, we
Okay,
have an hour, so.
okay. Well, let's see. I'll just start off when I first started with the tribe back in 2005. Um, my first night alone, I'd be driving around, and this happened for probably 6 months when I started. I drive, and the lights would just flicker on and off, especially where the old tax office used to be was right on the corner. It had a porch light on, and when I drive by, it turn off, and then as soon as I'd get just barely enough past it, it'd come back on. I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, well, this is kind of weird. So I just decided to go back and forth several times, and every time but one time, every time I got close to it, it turned off, then pass it, come back on. One time it didn't do it. One time it just stayed completely off when I drove by.
Hmm.
But it always did that, and that was the main one there. The building 64 and the other tribes, part of the tribe there, the lights would flicker on and off as well, but not as consistent as that one. I never knew, and I still don't understand why that one was always the one going on and off. But about after 6 months, yeah, everything worked fine. The lights stopped flickering. Not sure what it was that caused it to stop. Maybe they figured out I wasn't going anywhere and they weren't scaring me off, so I'm here to stay.
Hmm.
But that's what first started off. And then probably about a year into my patrol, I was working night shift again, and I was driving. We have a community house. It's an older house. A lot of people use it for parties or get-togethers or watch parties for our elections we have, what have you. And I was on patrol, and I was going around the corner, which was probably about a block away from the building. And whenever I looked at the building, it's got double doors on it, and it's got big windows across the middle of it. And as I was driving towards it, it looked like there was an open flame inside. The whole building was engulfed inside the building from where I was at. I didn't see any smoke, but all I could see were flames billowing up in the window. So I floor it there, and as soon as I get there, and I'm seeing the flames, but as soon as I get out of my ride and shut the door and then look, no flames, nothing. I mean, it's just like there was nothing at all inside. It's hard to describe how it
Like no
goes from
fire,
flames to just
no flames, no
absolutely,
light.
yeah, it's just like an abandoned building, basically. And
Hmm.
I walk up there, and the inside is fine, no scorches, nothing. And I didn't say anything about that because I just thought I was losing my mind there for a week. And until Chief pulled me into his office, and he said, "Okay, well, you've been out here for a year now, working night shift. Have you seen anything crazy?" And I said, "Well, now that you mention it," I told him about that story about the community house being on fire, and I can't tell you, he had like the biggest sigh of relief. He was like, "Whew, I'm glad I wasn't the only one that's seen something like that." Because I guess like the year prior or something, he saw the exact same thing. As soon as he got out, walked up there, there
Hmm.
wasn't anything. So that was pretty intense. I knew I wasn't losing my mind on that one, so that was
Right.
pretty good. Um, I have a friendly Casper. I don't know if that's going to be their name in Building 64. Every once in a while, we check doors, no different than the city whenever they check businesses on the weekends or whenever to see if the buildings are locked up. So we check doors out here as well. Every once in a while, the doors will be open. You know, usually on the weekends, everybody's in a hurry. They want to go home for the weekend, so they'll forget a door. So when there's a door open, you know as well as I do, we go through there and make sure nobody's in there. Well, this particular one, there's two sets of stairs that go in this building. The
Hmm.
closest one, when you walk in, you talk to the administrator, and they'll let you know where to go or who to talk to. You sign in. And to your right, if you look, there's going to be a set of old wooden stairs that go up. And then, of course, the other set is on the other side of the building. But those set of stairs there, every time I go up and down those stairs, I'll have a spirit following me, either up or down. I can hear the footsteps go up, and then I can also hear the footsteps whenever I come down. Sometimes also whenever I'm clearing the building, the upstairs bathroom, the women's bathroom in particular, flushes for no apparent reason. I even one time decided to go in there one time, turn the water off, flush it, and then I went through the whole building just checking things, and I could still hear it flush. Walked in there, and there was water in it, like I never shut the water off. It was pretty intense.
That's bizarre.
Uh, it was crazy things happened there. Um, Little people, and I'm sure you probably heard stories of little people. The people around here are pretty familiar with them. Um, the only stories I've got of seeing the little people is patrolling one night, and they were going across from where we have a gymnasium. And if you have any questions, Roy, please, I like to
Oh yeah,
ramble,
yeah, yeah.
so just
I
jump
mean,
in anytime.
it's only corroborating with what I've heard before. Like
Oh,
these
yes.
people are really short. like one of them has the strength of like seven people.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And I've heard different stories that they'll run by themselves, but the main one I always see is they run in packs of three. They look they're about the size of little dwarfs, midget people, but they're not built like dwarfs. They're built like regular people. They're just really short.
Right.
I've never smelt them, but I do know that I've told that they smell like wet leather,
Hmm.
and they just look like little kids running around at night. Is what they do. But anyways, on patrol, I was coming from the post, going to the PD, and I just happened to see three what I thought were kids, and this was when or two what I thought three little kids run across the road from where our weight room is to what we call old IHS.
Hmm.
And I seen them just run right into IHS. I didn't see them go any doors, but I saw them run to that building and not run past it.
Hmm.
So I seen some cars there, and this was back when people worked there, in the evenings, pretty late, roughly about 8 or 9 o'clock. So I was like, well, maybe people in here got their kids and didn't know their kids are out here running around 9 o'clock at night.
Right.
So I'm gonna go in there and check and see. So I go in there, and there's several ladies there, and I ask them, hey, I seen three kids run in here, and just wanting to know if any of them, just letting you guys know they're out here running around 9 o'clock at night, and I just
Hmm.
wanted to let you know that they're out here. And they said, we don't have any kids here. I'm like, well, I don't know what to tell you. I just saw three kids run in here. I said, but they're not your kids, and I'm going to search the building then. And they said, nope, not our
Dang.
kids. And they gathered all their stuff and left. And of course, I went through the building and nothing. There wasn't anybody else in there. So they knew what it was. I didn't until the next day. I told during pass downs what I found. They're like, nah, that wasn't kids. That was little people.
Yeah.
That's what that was. I'm like, well, I couldn't see exactly for sure. And I know I talked to you about orbs. It's been a while since I've seen any, but there for a while, uh, probably 5, 6 years ago, um, probably once or twice a month to see blue or maybe reddish, orangish orbs just kind of flying around out there. Catlet Bridge is the biggest one. A lot of people see them out there quite a bit. I've seen them up there on the railroad tracks, and they just fly off and disappear. Really couldn't tell you what that's all about. Um,
Yeah, I've heard a
see,
lot. I've heard a lot about those on like cemeteries and like like you said that it happened at like the campgrounds, didn't it? Like the
yes,
powwow grounds over
yes.
there.
Yeah, we have a set of grounds that we call the campgrounds, and it's usually where they do prayer meetings and they do gatherings and hand games. We have a round arena out there, and they do hand games or whatever out there. There's a lot of happenings there as well. Most of the orbs are around that area, but like I said, I don't see a whole lot too much besides the orbs there. Our cemeteries, I haven't seen hardly anything there. Other people tell me stories about the cemeteries, but personally, no, everything's third-hand information is what I gather.
Right.
But I haven't seen anything personally out there. No.
I wonder what the story is behind I'm like the little people. Is it like Dear Lady or is it do you think it's like something else?
You know that I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't ever asked anybody the question of their history, where their origins come from. I apologize. I guess I should have
Oh no,
done
you're
that
fine.
before.
I'm just wondering because I have no idea, but I've heard different sources of people talk about it, and it kind of just made me curious, thinking like, what's their purpose? Like I mean, what do they do when you come in contact with one? When you
Oh,
see one, is it just like
well,
you see them and they're gone, or like it's just
well,
crazy?
the purpose. I can tell you a couple of stories. From what I've heard is there's two purposes of the little people. Is they can either be mischievous or they help the elders. Now, I haven't heard the elders tell me a story of, oh, the little people help me out all the time. Now, if that's something they would tell me, I don't know, or if they would tell anybody. I mean, I don't know personally if I was having little people help me, I would probably keep that to myself. But
Right.
I have heard that that's what they're for. The other story is the mischievous ones, is mainly the ones I hear about little people. The story that I heard was there were some people going out to the cemetery, and they were ghost hunting, and usually that's whenever the little people make their presence, is when people are out there and they're trying to find these guys or gals. They will show up on you if you talk about them. Things will happen out there and anywhere at the reserve and what have you. But anyways, they were saying, okay, we turned the lights off. And they didn't get out of the car, and they decided to just sit there. They rolled the windows down. All of a sudden, they heard things outside. It sounded like a bunch of feet in the grass and the leaves. So they rolled up the windows, turned the lights on, and they said they saw three little people, and they just grabbed rocks and started chunking it at their car, jumped on their car, and they didn't hang around to find out what was going on, and they took off. Now, you can take your story either way. Yeah, were they being mischievous? Maybe, or they were just trying to tell them, "Hey, you're not supposed to be here. Get out.
Right.
Go somewhere else to do what you're doing. This is a sacred place, what have you." I mean, I don't know what the story is behind that, but the people that told me this aren't somebody to make up a story, so I'm sure it probably
Right.
happened.
I wonder if
I've
that's a
heard.
lot of. Oh, sorry. I wonder if that's like a lot of encounters that happen where someone sees something and it freaks them out and they leave or what have you. But I wonder if it's all something that's like, hey, you're not supposed to be here, kind of like a warning sign.
And
Um,
that's going to be my guess, because that's usually whatever everybody tells me about stories. I seen this, I seen that. Well, they were probably telling you, "Hey, you're not supposed to be here. Right now's not a good time. Come back later."
right.
That's mainly what everybody tells me out here whenever I come into contact with something I haven't before, is what I'm told.
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, you've seen a lot, compared to most people, and that's just like it's wild because you tell me things that no one I know tells me things, but I've heard other things from like different sources that line up with what you're saying. So I'm
Hmm.
like, it's I know it's not like everyone has seen it, but it's like it corroborates what I hear from all these other sources from like people on Facebook, YouTube, threads that I read, and it's like you guys don't know each other, so it's
No,
just there's a lot of truth to it, and it's wild, it's definitely something that's above or beneath the surface level of just like having an encounter with an entity
anything.
or whatever. Yeah, I mean, heck, there was I don't know if it was Cambodia, Brazil, it was some country where there was a like a mass UFO sighting where like there was a school, like an elementary school, and the whole town, or either the whole town or the whole village and the school saw this UFO spacecraft land. You know, two beings got out of it and had some words with some kids and went back to their ship and took off. So
Well, I'm hearing a
I
lot
don't
about this.
know.
So, well, in Brazil, I'm hearing a lot of what you're telling me is Brazil seeing a lot of these things. But the footage I see of that, I don't know whether to believe that or not. To be honest with you, the footage is so horrible. And
Yeah.
you got these phones now, and even iPhones can take decent pictures. So I don't know where those stories are coming from. To be honest with you on that one. But everything I've told you, I've seen firsthand, and it just continues on out there, just little things. And I've probably just come so accustomed to it, it doesn't bother me anymore. Oh yeah, I did tell you the story of elder men arguing in Pawnee too.
Yeah.
Just do I do a lot of walking out there. It's very peaceful, and plus I'm doing my job, checking doors, just checking everything. But I enjoy walking out there quite a bit, and you hear and see a lot of things. And this one particular night, there was a house back there behind Building 64 on the south there. A family used to live back in it way back in the day, and for some reason the dad lost it, killed the kids and the wife there, killed himself as well.
Mm.
But in this house area, it was abandoned for a long time before they tore it down and rebuilt what they have there now. Um, I heard some elderly men arguing, and it was in Pawnee, and I don't understand Pawnee completely, but I'm pretty fluent to know Pawnee's language and understand that it was Pawnee. But yeah, they were arguing pretty good. I walked back there, and nobody's there. I checked the house. Of course, it's just gutted
Man.
out, so it's easy to check. But I've never heard it again after that. But it was loud, distinct. I knew it was Pawnee, and I knew they were back there, and it was just like two people arguing. It was pretty incredible. Also, the drums. We have powwow there, and we have people come out there and practice every once in a while. Actually, back behind my house here, we have people practicing at night, getting ready for the powwow we're going to have come 4th of July. But they'll always go out there and they'll practice throughout the evening, and it's kind of nice to have. But this one evening, and it was probably a month before powwow, so it was probably a June area. I was driving out there. As soon as I crossed the Green Bridge, I could hear the drums. I'm like, oh, okay. Back in the day, it was Zane Howell and his friends. Was when this happened, and that was Baby Jean's kid. And they went out there and they practiced quite a bit. But they usually let me know, hey, we're going to be out here practicing. And I'm like, okay, no problem. I won't bother you. But nobody told me anything, so I just figured it was them. So I was going to drive around and watch them and listen. And as I was driving around, I could never pinpoint where the drums were coming from. When I get to where they usually practice, which is going to be Yellow Horse Field, it sounded like it was coming from Catlett Bridge. So I'm like, well, maybe they're over at Catlett Bridge area practicing. And so I drove over there. Well, as soon as I drove over there, it sounded like it's coming from the tribe. So I go back to the tribe, and I'm driving around, and it's just I never can find it. So I drive across the Green Bridge. As soon as I drive across the Green Bridge, I don't hear him anymore. So then I drive back across, and then I hear it again. And it was like that for probably till about 2 or 3 in the morning, and then they just stopped, and never heard him again since then. But that was pretty intense too. I forgot about that one.
Well, yeah, hearing something like profound like drums, and then you go back there, there's nothing there, and then you kind of head back and you hear drums again. You're like, what
Hmm.
the heck?
Yeah,
Wow.
and and there's not much to drive around there to be able to hide out there. And so I looked over and nobody was out there, and it was pretty cool.
That's wild. That's wild stuff. Um, so there's that house by the bridge that turns Harrison and Agency, or that
Harrison.
separates the two. There's a house to the south, I think,
Oh, right
where
across the Green Bridge.
hmm so
Okay.
whoever owned that house, I guess I want to say Bigfoot. I've heard reports of Bigfoot being seen back there. I don't know if it was when that person was living there or after they sold it or what, but it was over in that area. I guess it's in that winding creek.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. That would be that was the Venables' old place. I'm not sure if they still live there or not, but
Mhm.
or if they still own it. But yeah, you mentioned that story. I did get a call from the Post probably 3, 4 years ago, and it was late at night, and they said they seen a man back there in that field. And for those that don't know, this field, it's open. It usually collects a lot of water, but it's just an open field back behind the Post and everything. They said that they looked back there and there was something huge in a ghillie suit walking. And I'm like, okay, guys, don't be jerking my leg here. They're like, no, no,
Right.
seriously. I walked outside, looked over there, and there was something in the middle of the field that was walking towards the house you're talking about, and it was in a ghillie suit. And
Hmm.
I'm like, all right. So I get out there, and of course, the parking lot goes pretty much way back there, so I can spotlight the whole area, and I don't see anything. So I'm like, okay, well, everything leaves tracks. So, and it's muddy out there all the time. Usually, it's pretty swampy. So surely I could find something. So yeah, I go in there and I get my boots on and I go out there and I'm, going back and forth, and I don't see a track one. I don't see anything. No people tracks, Bigfoot tracks, whatever. There's no tracks whatsoever. There's deer, varmints and animals, but nothing of human or anything of that nature. So I don't know if he saw anything or not, but the cat was serious. The guy that called it in, he was serious. He said he saw something. He didn't want to say Bigfoot, but I'm sure that's what he was thinking. So he said ghillie suit, but the look on his face, he saw something that startled him. But I haven't seen anything since then. But I do go by there and spotlight, but nobody else has seen anything. But you are true. If somebody has told you, um, yeah, this person, and like I said, it was about 3, 4 years ago, and said they saw somebody walking back there towards that house, going towards it, but I didn't see anything nor tracks.
Hmm. Yeah, it kind of just makes me wonder, since it's kind of in that same area
Hmm.
um, of of where you saw, was it like the Monkey Man or whatever, kind of in that
Well,
area, or is that
not that area. The Monkey Man's several miles south of town.
okay? Okay.
But as far as that one goes, now the only thing people have seen out there was the lizard boy. Uh, I've heard stories about that. Now I did get one story from somebody, and it was an elder, and they went to school there back when it was a boarding school, and he got into a fight with his dad, and he went up there to the building whenever the boarding school was shut down. So he went up to the boys' dorm and was hiding out in there and just kind of just hid there. He said
Mhm.
when he was there, he could hear something come up the steps, and it was huge, fur, had teeth and had eyes. The eyes glue red.
Oh,
Of course, there's a fire escape, so he jumped out the window and went down, and you know,
right.
but he was the only one that told me stories about that. He's not one to tell me things of that nature either, to embellish stories or to flat out lie.
Right.
He also told me about the lizard boy, and then the ghosts out there. The reason why there's so many spirits running out there is pretty horrific. The stories I've heard of how the natives were mistreated during the boarding school areas.
Hmm.
So I don't know if that's something to talk about. It's a whole nother story for a whole nother day.
Yeah,
But
maybe another day we'll divulge into that. But yeah, I've heard the same things as you're saying. So yeah, for sure, it's a big topic.
there,
You know.
it is very, but that's why there's so many things out there that's going on. And I encourage anybody that goes out there and does look for spirits to, if you do come in contact, don't run. Don't run. Just say, hey, I'm out here minding my own business. As soon as I'm done, I'll leave, and they won't bother you. That's what I've been told. And there's been a few hair raising experiences walking. It feels like something coming running up behind me, but I just tell them, hey, I'm working. As soon as I'm done, I'll leave. And
Mhm.
after that, haven't been bothered much at all.
Cool. Okay, Doug. Well, I mean, I guess that concludes our show tonight. And BJ, I just want to thank you very much for being on and sharing your stories with us. And it kind of corroborates, what you hear on social media and the news and just other people's stories for sure. So I just want to thank you for being on the show, and I'm honored to have you on tonight. So,
Honored to
just
be here. It's the first ever thing, so I hope I did well for you guys.
yeah, you did great. I sure appreciate it, and hopefully, I'd like to have you on again soon to talk about some of the other stuff with just like the past history of the tribes and so forth, and how a lot of that stuff kind of came to be. So,
I'd be
um,
happy to, but I can only tell you what I'm told, so
right,
um,
right.
that's about it.
All right, cool. I guess that wraps us up. Hey guys, thanks for joining us tonight on A Story with Rory. Until next time, see you later.